Here we are again, another great episode of the HawkCast. I'd like to welcome in one of my idols growing up, a true hero of mine. And the thing is, I'm not that much younger than this guy, but I'd like to welcome the great Jake, the Snake Plummer. Jake, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you, AJ. I'm excited to be on with you on the HawkCast, man. Maybe a hawk will fly by while we're doing this, man.
That's right. Yeah, you got you have we can see your nice background for the people watching the video part. We have Jake is on the shores of what lake is that in Idaho?
It's Coeur d'Alene Lake up in the panhandle of Idaho, North Idaho. By Coeur d'Alene is the city. So we're on a bay out here. I've had this place for going on a little over 10 years, and it's kind of where I've spent my summers. Even when I was playing ball, I'd come up here for, as you know, you're immersed in working out. This was my getaway, man, for a week or 2 weeks. I'd be playing out here, boating and having some beers and hanging out with my family and friends. And hard to leave this place, but now we're here for the whole month since I'm not getting called back from many camps or the start of training camp.
How does that feel? Not I know. What are you? How many years removed are you now from playing?
I've tried to keep track. It's I think 7 years now, 7 or 8. This will be the 8th. This of 7 complete years I've been out. I think 2006 was my last year.
Your last season was 2006, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing. That was my rookie year, was the 2006 season. So believe me, I'm happy to still be playing. But I remember watching you. Obviously, I think everyone remembers you from your ASU days, and I'm an Ohio State guy, so I think one of the games that you were already on the map. You know, you probably should have won the Heisman that year, but was that Rose Bowl game your senior year? I think that might be one of the greatest bowl games ever to have been played. And man, I still remember watching that game. Everybody in Ohio still remembers that game, and I think that everyone came away from it was. Everyone was a fan of Jake the Snake regardless. I know Ohio State found a way to get a win, but, man, what a game for you. How was that whole situation out there?
You know, that was a pretty remarkable year. You rarely get an opportunity to be a part of something like that. So to be able to do that, my senior year, you know, we didn't have a great 3 years leading up to that weren't the best years. We didn't make it to bowl games. We lost to our in-state rivals, the Wildcats, 3 times. So, you know, my senior year ended up being a great year. It was a lot of fun. We had a great crew of guys, a great crew of athletes, guys that really cared about each other. And that was, like you said, as far as bowl games go, I watched a lot of bowl games, and that one, if there had been 5 more minutes on the clock or even 10 more minutes, it would have just kept getting more and more interesting. It was just a great game. For me, you know, whether or not I won the Heisman, it didn't really matter. I was just happy to be part of a great team. It was a culmination of a few hard-fought years and some struggles. Came to, you know, that senior year where we went undefeated, and we lost to a great Ohio State team. And people probably, some of my buddies will be mad I'm talking to you because you're a Buckeye, but, you know, I don't hold grudges. I have nothing against the Buckeyes. But, you know, that was a great game, and sad one team had to lose.
It really is, honestly. And coming from an Ohio State guy, I was rooting for Ohio State at the time, but I found myself rooting for you as well and your whole team. And what's funny is it's a sore subject. What a weird world how it all kind of comes back. One of our coaches for the Packers, Jason Simmons, was a safety with you on that ASU team, and I remember it took me maybe even over a year for Jason to be in there to realize that he was. I'd known of him, and I knew he played in the league, and I knew he was an ASU guy, and I didn't put it together that he played with you. He got to play with Pat Tillman, and so Jason gets very annoyed with me badgering him with questions about you guys. That's the thing, and he's only had great things to say about that whole team. So it must have been something pretty special, as you said before, to be a part of that team. But for your whole, you know, you said you struggled for 3 kind of seasons, not yourself personally, but your team. To kind of go out like that and then to stay out there in Arizona and get drafted by the Cardinals, was that part of the plan, or do you want to go somewhere else?
You know, it's funny you say that because I look back and reflect on that time, and you know, I went to Arizona State, which is a strange place, even a choice for me. As you look around and see the trees behind me and the mountains, and I was used to kind of the Northwest and rain once in a while in the seasons. So going to Arizona was a shock for me, a total change in environment. I went there though because of Bruce Snyder and the fact that he looked me in the eye in my living room in Boise, Idaho, and said, I think, he said, you come to Arizona State, we'll win a national championship. And for me at the time, being 6'2", about 173 pounds, with a nasty mullet, a kid that, gosh, from Boise, Idaho, not many D1 athletes come out of Boise. That was an eye-opener for me and really made me think about where I wanted to go. And I think I made a great choice. It was a different place to go. It was a nice adjustment to kind of see a different part of the country. I like the desert. I don't know if I could live there now. I like to visit, but the heat just kills me now. But going there was a lot of fun. And then getting drafted, after the Arizona State days where we almost won a national title. But Bruce Snyder knew something that all the other coaches didn't know. But going to Arizona was a lot of fun. It was nice. I was able to just transition to a new team, a new facility. I didn't have to pack up and leave and go to a whole new town, get all new contacts and try to find new, places to eat and all that stuff. But part of me wanted to go somewhere else too, just for the excitement of being in a new city and going and finding new restaurants and seeing new things and meeting new friends. But it did allow me a little bit of a learning, I guess I should say, learning curve that was nice in other places because I had a lot of fans on the state. So my first game against Tennessee, I threw 4 interceptions. And after the third one, even after the fourth one, I came back on the field, they cheered for me. Now, where does that happen unless you're in your same hometown as the college you went to? So it was nice. It was a little bit of a nice, easy way to transition into the NFL. But, we had some tough years in Arizona. We had a really good one my second year, but we did have some tough years. And it was nice. Arizona is a nice place to live.
It is. I've been lucky enough to play in the Fiesta Bowl 3 times. Actually, I played in 4 bowl games, and 3 of them were out there in the Fiesta Bowl. So It's a cool place. I mean, it's the new stadium wasn't built when I was in college. I've played in the new stadium now with the Packers a few times. But man, that old stadium built into that, was that built right into Camelback? Is that right?
Yeah, Tempe Buttes there.
Okay, man. Yeah, what a cool setting, I think. And it was a special place to be. So for you, kind of like the adopted hometown kid to get drafted by the Cardinals, I thought it was pretty neat from at least as a spectator. So
yeah, it was
I wasn't aware that you threw four picks in that first game and they still cheered you, but good for them. I like it. I like them sticking by your side. And I think they were with you throughout your whole career. Even when you went to Denver, though, they were all pulling for you.
Yeah, the Valley, I still get back there quite a bit. We've got a lot of fans back there that will always be fans, as you know, when you play in college. Your college fans remain there forever. Going and playing for the Cardinals, the fans I still got a lot of great Cardinal fans, but a lot of people are transient. They come to Arizona, they leave. So maybe they're a Green Bay Packer fan, yet they moved to Arizona. They root for us unless we're playing the Packers. So it was kind of interesting at times, but we had a great year. My second year in the league, we made it to the playoffs and beat Dallas down there. And, I thought, all right, this is great. Playoffs are fun. We're going to be there every year, but it's not easy. And that organization, in the league, there's a lot of organizations that know how to win and know how to win consistently. They seem to struggle with that, but they're on the right curve now. I think the Cardinals are coming around and putting together a good team, have a good coach in Bruce Arians. But, it was fun. I enjoyed my time there, and I was excited to have a change of scene when I got to go to Denver, and that's just an amazing organization to play for up there.
And I know you call when you're not at your lake house. You said you call Boulder home, and I've been out there a few times as well. My brother-in-law was actually with Denver for a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know what it was, and we went and visited him a few times, and he loves that place. And he's been in multiple different teams throughout the league. And he says Denver was unbelievable. Just living there, the organization is great. He says they're treated, it's first class all the way.
Oh, yeah.
But just being out there, I wanted to soak it all in. I wanted to go to a concert at Red Rocks. I wanted to do everything, but didn't have the time. But I'm not surprised that you'd want to live in the Colorado area. So is that going to be your final spot, you think?
Who knows? It's hard to say. I love North Idaho. My wife does too. She's a Colorado girl. And, it's hard to say. My family's all living in Idaho still. Where we're at now is just a really nice place to live. Boulder's a fun city. It's an active city. A lot of people out recreating and doing all sorts of stuff. So, I fit in there. It keeps me young. Even though my body's a little banged up, I still can get out on my bike and, go out and play some handball at the 3-wall courts. And it's a good vibe out there. And being able to jet up into the mountains at the drop of a hat, it's really nice. And Red Rocks, as you mentioned, been to some really nice concerts at Red Rocks. And if you haven't gone, next time you get out there, man, plan it around a trip to Red Rocks because you won't regret it.
I need to. My first memory of even hearing about Red Rocks was buying the Dave Matthews Band live album from Red Rocks, and that thing, I knew something was special. I'm thinking, I got to get out there, man. That sounds like my spot. And I drove by it on the highway, but I couldn't make it in. There wasn't a show the day I was there. But you hit on it there. We'll get back to football at some point, probably. We'll see. But you mentioned their handball. I've been following you from afar for a long time, so I know a little bit about your handball experience. Can you walk us through a little bit how you got into it, or at least what do you consider? Are you considered a pro?
No. There's it's like golfers that say they're a really, really good golfer, and then you talk about a pro golfer. There's a different level there. And I've played with plenty of the pros. I've had the privilege of playing doubles with some of the pros. And I call myself a Joe. There's a difference, the pros and the Joes. And in handball, I'm a Joe, but getting to get in the court with the pros, being with those great players, it pulls little facets of your game out that you didn't know you had. You'll make a play, or you'll dig a ball out, or you'll do something that you didn't know you could, because when you're playing with great players that are at the top of their game, it just seems to make you rise up. I can still rise up a little bit, even though now I'm a little banged up. I don't play as much handball, but it's a great sport that my dad introduced me and my brothers to at a young age. I can remember watching my dad play as just a little toddler, and running into the court if they had a timeout or a break, and throwing the handball around until they kicked me back off the court. And I started playing when I was about 12, which is about when it's a good time to start, because it's a hard game. It's physically very challenging and mentally extremely challenging. And so I started playing, and I attribute a lot of my foot's quickness and my spatial awareness, my agility and movement to the game of handball, because you have to use both sides of your body. And I encourage kids all the time to try to play handball, or at least get in the court, play racquetball. Racquetball is okay. You got to use one side, but handball is just another level. It's not a real popular sport. It's kind of almost like a gladiator sport. You go into this big square box with another guy, and whoever wins comes out of the winner, and mano a mano. It's pretty fun. So it's still a game I love to play. It's just at this stage in my life, after playing ball and everything, it's pretty hard on the body. But I'd be a wuss if I said I won't play handball because I hurt, because damn near every handball player I know has a bad back or a bad shoulder or a bad hip or something.
It is, from what I've watched of it. I grew up playing a lot of racquetball, and is it the same court? Do you play in the same, like a racquetball court, or is there actual handball courts?
Yep, exactly the same. It's actually exactly the same. In fact, I'd call them handball courts, because before there were rackets, we had just our hands. But it's the same exact dimensions, basically the same rules too. It's just you have to use your non-dominant side. So for a lot of people, that's extremely difficult. You don't have a backhand in handball, because you got to use your left, your offhand, whatever it's your left or your right. So it's a really, it's a really good sport. Mentally tough. You got to be able to accept failure for a lot of your career, or at least a lot of the learning process and learning the game. But once you get it down and you find someone you like to play with, it's fun. I basically go play handball, drink 3 or 4 beers, hang out with the guys. It helped me transition out of the NFL, because I was able to play with a group of guys and drink some beers afterwards. I had the camaraderie there, and we played 3 nights a week. We'd meet up and for 2.5 hours sit there and play handball. And when you're not playing, you're talking and having fun and just shooting the shit and hanging out. So it's a fun little group of guys. It's around the U.S. and in Ireland it's really big. But like I said, I don't play as much as I'd like to, because my body doesn't allow it at this stage.
And how old are you now?
39. I'll be 40 this year. Big 40.
Good, man. I bet you feel good. I turned 30 about 6 months ago, and I feel great. Like I joke with my wife, I'm like, I'm just beginning to enter my prime, physically, mentally, everything, you know. And I tell people that, and I think I've said it enough that it's becoming true. I think I am. So
that's good, man. How you take pretty good care of your body, I'm sure, with your training and stuff, right?
Yeah, I kind of gone through the whole gamut of, I started working out probably 5th grade or something. I had 2 older brothers, so I would just follow them around and get beat up, and they were lifting, so I'd be down there lifting at 6 in the morning before school. And so I kind of went through the whole high school straight meathead phase, took that all the way through college, just powerlifting 3-4 hours a day. And I still work out pretty much 6-7 days a week, but I would say I'm smarter, and I'd say I'm in better shape and feel better than I did even when I was in college. So I think you get a little bit. I never claim to be smart, but I at least have learned a little bit on what would hurt my body and what helps me, And so I just, I'm consistent with it. But yeah, I mean, I feel really good. I wouldn't know, like, how do you feel at 39? Does your head feel good? You know how that's the whole thing now. All these guys joining concussion lawsuits and all that. You as a quarterback too, when you're getting hit, you're getting blasted. How was that, and how was like the rest of your body?
I'm real lucky. I played 10 years straight, started in my rookie year and ended up, getting benched my last year. But I missed a handful of games with some minor injuries here and there. I never had any major injuries. I was never concussed. I was never sat down or after a game diagnosed with a concussion. There were many times where my bell got rung, where I'm sure everything goes black, and then you hear that pulsating sound come back, and you say, whoa, okay, I'm in Dallas Stadium. I just tried to get that across the goal line. I must not have made it, but I knew where I was. It came back to me quickly, so I was lucky. I didn't have a mushy head. I had a hard head that could take some hits. I don't know what the effects of that are going to be, 20, 30 years from now. I try not to focus on it, because I think a lot of these guys, when they're talking about doing these baseline tests to find out what damage has been done, me personally, I don't even want to know, because once you accept that there's damage done, then, you have an excuse, or you have a reason to think, oh, it's going to get worse. Well, for me, I just try to live my life. I got 2 young boys that keep me active, and, if my brain goes to hell down the road, that's something that I'll deal with then. For right now, I feel great. My knees feel really good. My only problem is my back, but I've had a back issue since I was a young kid. I have a strange shaped body, a little bit of a spine that I have to take really good care of. And for a few years there, I didn't do much at all. And now I'm kind of paying the price, but I still can go out, play golf, I can play tennis and play some handball, ride my bike, go jogging. I mean, I can do everything. It's just at 40, and after playing in the league, you kind of accept what pace you do it at. And that's been the hardest thing for me, is to try to gear it down, back it down a little bit, and do the things I like, but do them at my own speed.
That's good to hear that your head feels good. And I know you said you weren't concussed. And it was funny when you were saying you go black and you come back. You didn't go out, but you hear the pulsating and you say, oh, must not have scored. I guess It's funny. I've knock on wood, whatever you want to do. Yeah, I've been very lucky too with head things. But I was gonna say, and then I'm sure you made when you stood up after a play like that, you got to make sure you wait about 15 seconds before you take that first step, because you don't want to nosedive right into the ground.
It wasn't even – I never had any of those where I was wobbly even, It just – I came back quickly, I was lucky. But I don't know if you played like tackle football growing up as a kid, out at recess with no pads on. Nobody does that anymore. I mean, maybe they do, but nowhere where I'm living.
No way, man. They don't let – are you kidding me? The schools will get sued. It would be terrible. I mean, it's terrible. They should, I'm saying.
But it's such a conundrum for, I think, the league, because they got these kids that come into the league thinking, okay, I got my helmet on. Well, when you put a helmet on, you think you're supposed to use it. No. The helmet's to protect your head. It's not to be used. So I learned how to tackle out in Levi jeans and tennis shoes, man. And I could make cuts on wet grass with flat bottom tennis shoes on. I didn't need Under Armour cleats or Nike cleats or whatever. And so these kids these days, that's how I grew up. So I was able to always kind of keep my head out of the picture, luckily. And I learned how to fall at a young age. I learned how to trip and fall off of a 5-foot rock and hey, how do you land correctly? You got to go do that stuff in order to survive. And I attribute it to a lot of my success and as far as staying healthy in the league and through my whole football career was just because I played a lot when I was a kid. I was constantly climbing trees, jumping off rocks and everything, So I think the kids these days, if they're not doing that, then they're, setting themselves up for injuries down the road.
You're right. I never really thought of it like that, but you're right. I agree. We always played, we called it speedball, powerball, whatever. We'd do that at recess. We'd play it in gym class growing up all the way through high school. And I still tell people to this day, the biggest hit of my life came my freshman year in high school with powerball in our back gym at Centerville High School. I forget the kid's name, but I lined it up from like 40 all the way across the whole gym court, and someone just set it up perfectly, threw a high ball to him, and I just absolutely annihilated this dude. And it felt so good, and I still haven't been able to recreate that. I think that's what I'm doing while I'm still playing. I'm just trying to recreate that hit that I had. But you're right, you learn how to fall, you learn how to take shots like that. And I think you hit on something when you said you learn how to fall. I'm sure this is boring to people that don't play sports, but I think there's an art to that. Like some of my best things that I'm most proud of is sometimes falling in practice or in a game where I'll get in a pile or something. I have a guy fronting up and he's driving his legs, and all of a sudden I'll feel maybe my ankle roll and the whole D line comes to get on the tackle, and all of a sudden as I go that, boom, you got to go limp. You got to go with it and not fight against the pressure. And if I've had some really weird ones where I felt like guys are flying at your legs, and you just find a way to feel it, and you go limp and you fall down and you're fine and you're good, and then you realize like, man, if I wasn't aware of this, I'd be out. I'd be out for the year.
Oh, yeah. That's spatial awareness, man, and that's just from doing all sorts of things, playing all kinds of sports, and just being active. And I think a lot of kids, when they're training, they're specializing in a sport and just playing that sport, you lose the ability to play like hoops or baseball or any of that other sports where you have to have your peripheral vision working and your spatial awareness. I watch the game very closely now and see a lot of different things, but I love watching when, like you mentioned, a guy is getting, like, oh God, his knee's going down and it's going to get blown out. But no, he finds a way to like adjust and go with it. And that's an art form, really. It's not something you can really practice. It's just something you have to learn at a young age, I believe. I mean, you got to learn it when you're real young and feel comfortable with just going with it. It's kind of like Kung Fu and Judo is like, you don't fight the force with force, you go with it. You kind of absorb it, and that's what I tried to do my whole career. Was there were times you got to go and blast and put your head down and go get it for your team, but a lot of times you just try to avoid that huge hit. And for the position you play, I don't know how you guys do it, man. You're constantly getting hit almost every play, and I'm impressed at the league in general. There's not more injuries with the amount of scrums and piles, and it's impressive what you guys do because you're getting hit while you're supposed to be hitting, and that's just it's a crazy thought.
It is. I think it just comes from, like you said, it comes from not even being aware of that when you're young and playing other sports. I grew up playing football, basketball, and baseball, and I think that's just something you should do now. I mean, we could talk forever. I don't want to be that old bitter guy complaining about kids these days. There's some studs coming up, but I think specializing. If a coach is telling you to quit other sports, that coach is a douche, and don't talk to him because he's terrible. I've seen that. It happens all the time, man. Like a basketball coach thinks, no, you shouldn't be playing football. You need to stay on the court. No, my high school football coach wanted you to play other sports because he knew this is going to make you a better football player if you're playing basketball, if you're playing baseball. So I would hope anyone that would listen to this would hear it from you, the first. Well, you're like not exactly the first, but you're the originator of the dual threat quarterback, man. You made it popular, I think.
I had a little bit of that going. I mean, there were some other great ones prior to me. Randall Cunningham was a guy that I watched growing up, which I loved. That guy was just a freak. He'd get out and take 5 steps, and he'd be 20 yards downfield. But I appreciate you saying that. When you get done, you'll have a chance to reflect back on your career and your life, and you go through a feeling when you're done with the league that it's hard to accept a life outside of it because it's such an amazing high you're riding on while you're doing it, and your purpose. right now you know what your purpose is, you know what your goal is, you know what you're driving hard for right now and what you're working out tomorrow morning for. But when you get done, you have to try to find something to replace that. And if you can think back and make your memories in the league and enjoy what you did. And like for me now, I love football. I love watching it and talking it, coaching it and working with kids. There was a time it wasn't like that, but I appreciate you mentioned just the fact I did like to get out and scramble and run. And sometimes it was it could have been a downfall for me at times, but I know that I made 80-90% of my plays were just because of my legs and my ability to get out of trouble and make something out of nothing. And I had a lot of fun booting to the left and to the right, and I love when I see these young cats moving and getting them out of the pocket. Russell Wilson's fun to watch play. He's dynamic rolling to his left. He throws the ball so well, and I like seeing that. I like to see that, and I hope I just added to the fact that you can have success when you're not just a one-dimensional guy. You can have success as a dual threat quarterback. So there's some good ones out there right now.
You definitely. I blame you for making my job a lot harder now. It's like every guy we face, like, hey, not only does this dude have a rocket laser arm, but he can run all over the place on you. So it's just like, what do we do now? So the league is definitely changing, but college football is causing that as well too, because there's not any drop back quarterbacks anymore in the college game. I think they're all running this read spread stuff. So they're going to be coming into the NFL like that, I think, and so they're going to. Coaches are going to have to adapt to that, and they already have. And man, offenses are explosive. But you hit on that for a second. You said when you first got out, I wanted to ask you, like, was that first year or 2 years? How did you feel? Because if anyone that doesn't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, you got from Denver, you got traded to Tampa Bay, and then you said, "Nah, I'm good. See ya," and you left on your own terms, which. First of all, I give you a ton of credit for that. Doesn't happen for barely anybody. They say everyone always says you don't leave on your own. They kick you out of this league. And so for you, can you take us through what your decision was to not go play for Tampa? I know Gruden and their GM tried to come get you. Was that did they come out to Idaho to come?
They came up to Coeur d'Alene actually.
Yeah, man. See,
yep.
That's awesome. So how did you? But okay, would you regret not coming back or coming to try to play for Tampa?
There's no regrets. There's always the thought of, what could have been, what could have happened. But my mental frame of mind at that point, my body and just where I was at, it wasn't going to allow for me to go do it the way I wanted to. And if you talk to, hopefully if you talk to most of my teammates I played with and stuff, they'll say what I put out on the field. I mean, I was 100% for my teammates. I was 100% effort always, no matter if it was practice, lifting weights, running conditioning drills, or the game. I mean, I put it all out there because that's how I had to do it to make it. So when it was time for me to go and I had that little bit of a crack that it was like, I don't want to play this and do this anymore, I couldn't go do it at 90% with 90% heart, because that's when you not only probably going to hurt yourself or not perform to your level, but you're also letting down a whole entire group of guys that you're close with, you're tight with, and you're letting down an organization. And so I'd had a great run, man, 10 years. I never thought I'd even make it to the NFL, and here I am. I'm a 10-year vet. I was ready to catch a plane and take the MVP trophy had we made it to the Super Bowl the year before. We lost in the AFC Championship game. I was bummed because I wanted to retire right after winning the Super Bowl. And that basically would have been my fulfillment of my childhood dream. I didn't want 3 or 4 rings. I didn't want to be the greatest ever of all time. The Hall of Fame would have been awesome to be part of a group like that. But all I really wanted to do was play in a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. So I was ready after that year to hang it up. I'd already thought about it. So when I went back for that last year, it was good. I went back with 100% effort, 100% heart, going after it. But, I was in a situation with a coach that had drafted Jay Cutler, and no fault of Jay's. I mean, he's a young kid that wants to play. He ended up coming and taking my spot late in the year. I wasn't performing up to Coach Shanahan's standards, and, it made it tough a little bit. But then, a series of events happened, and when I retired, it was time, man. I told him on the phone, Coach Shanahan, that, hey, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm not going to go play anywhere else. I'm done. And he didn't believe me, and he traded me even though I told him I was retiring. So, it I did leave on my own terms, but it wasn't as pretty as people imagine it. It didn't happen exactly how I wanted. Tampa had my rights. They took money back from me after I retired and said, I'm done. I don't want to play. So, it did leave a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth to some degree, because here is me being real honest, real forthright, saying, hey, I'm done. I don't want to play. And people can't really understand why I would do that. Yet you could probably understand, because you're in the middle of playing, that when a guy doesn't have it 100%, you don't want him on your team. And I was just ready to go. I was ready to get married and start a new phase in my life. And I don't have any regrets. It took me a while to get over football, but it would have taken me a long time had I played for 3 or 4 more years. I mean, it's going to take you a long time no matter when you call it quits, because leaving the game is hard to do.
That first year out, did you kind of stay away from football, or did you watch? What'd you do?
I didn't turn on a TV on Sundays. That's when I played a lot of handball. I purposely didn't even go near a football game. I'd turn it on occasionally. Funny story, I TiVo'd the Super Bowl where the Giants with Eli won his first, when he had that game-winning drive to win it. Well, I didn't add the extension or record it. At that time, you couldn't add the extension. You had to record the next show. Well, I didn't do that. So I'm watching the Super Bowl, and I'm like, oh, this game's getting good. This is what I want to see. I watch football. Bang, it stops. And I'm like, oh, my God, are you kidding me? It just made me even more mad at the game. And so, which is a bad thing to do, but I started coaching some high school ball up in Sandpoint, and that really brought the love of the game of football back. Not all the stuff that we deal with outside of it, but just the game of football, and like the kid with his chin strap buckled that's like, dude, you're never going to see the field all year, but he's ready. He wants it, and he's ready to go in. Or like the dude sitting on the sideline eating Fig Newtons in the middle of the game. And you're like, what are you doing? Eating Fig Newtons, man. You got to get in there. So, just funny stuff, man. And it was high school ball, and that really brought the love of the game back to me, and just what I remember as a kid growing up and why I wanted to play in the NFL. So, it was a transition, and then I just so happened to turn on an Oregon Ducks game, and then it was all over. I started watching them every week. It was like, wow, this is amazing what they're doing, just watching the speed they were running at and the plays they were running. And then I got back into it. Now I'm full-fledged, watching it and even talking about it on Pac-12 Network and my podcast and all that stuff. So it's nice. It's been good to me.
Snake's Takes. Yeah, man, it's your podcast. I've listened to a few of them. I enjoy it.
Thank you.
I think as a football fan, we're glad to see you out there doing that, because I think if for people that don't know you, and I don't know you, this is my first time really talking to you. I was worried that that's your whole aura, the Jake the Snake, man, with your sweet beard and your sweet long hair you got just sitting in the mountains. Like, that's what we all figured. Damn, we lost him. We lost him to the lake, man. We're never gonna see Jake again. So I think as a fans, we're glad you're back. And like you said, you're working for Pac-12 Network and you got your own podcast. So I think that's something is that something you're passionate about, and you want to talk football, and you want to kind of get out there and get back into it?
Well, I mean, for me, it was a kind of couple things going on. One of them was I was really up to not doing a whole lot of anything. I was retired and just kind of doing whatever I wanted day in and day out. So I needed to get something going, and having the opportunity to go work for a new network, Pac-12 Network, was really awesome. I'd had both my hips operated on. Didn't get new hips, but I got them refinished, replaced, the labrums reattached, good stuff. Making sure that it's all me. I'm not going to have a replacement. So at the time, I couldn't go the first year they were up, but then I joined them last year, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great time for me, just going to San Fran and watching these young kids that are doing the same thing I was trying to do back at Arizona State, and that's go to the Rose Bowl and being the big granddaddy of them all. And so it's not something that I, at this moment in my life, am going to try to pursue. And, I don't want to really shoot to be the number one man on Fox Sports doing color or anything. But if I get to do some color at some games, I mean, that's awesome, man. I got to go to a football game and they're paying me and they're paying my way and flying me out there, and I get to go watch a game. I mean, that'd be awesome. So I'm getting a few more of those things going, and for me, you didn't lose me to the lake. I'm back, and I'm enjoying the game of football. I encourage a lot of guys out there that have had a tough transition out of the league to try to purge that in whatever way you can, and try to find a way to go back to like how great it was when you were playing. And what really did it for me was going to the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Denver Broncos game, which was 2 years ago. It was my first time going to an NFL game as just a fan, other than like a Super Bowl where I was making an appearance and going, but I just went as a fan. I walked in with the ticket. I went to Mr. Bowen's suite. I was in there for a hot second before I had to get the hell out of there. I was like a bird at a window, like, get me out. So I went out and just walked around the stadium, and I ran into a bunch of fans. I watched the game. I had tears in my eyes a lot of times, and it was overwhelming, the feeling of like, wow, I did this, man, for 10 years. I'm a badass, man. I was a badass, and it kind of hit me like, don't be ashamed of what you did. Accept what you did and like relish in it, and like go and enjoy it and try to be a part of it again. So for me, it's a lot of fun. I'm getting to do a lot of stuff around football. It doesn't dominate my life like it does when you're a player, but it's a big part of it now that I can go do some fun things.
That's awesome to hear, man. Like how you said you had to get out of that box and you walked around. I can't imagine too. Old Jake the Snake back at the game walking around. I'm sure he had more than a few fans coming up to you, but what a cool story to hear. You say you had tears in your eyes and thinking, that's cool that you said how you're saying, yeah, man, I was a badass. I am a badass still. This is what I did. And I had a weird situation. I went back to an Ohio State game this past year on my bye week, and I went to the game, and it was a night game. There's very few night games there. They have to bring in the lights in. They don't have lights permanent. And I'm standing there with my wife, and like I was watching, and I was like, did you ever? I met her at the very end of college, but so she came to like my senior game. But I was like, I remember asking her, and I was like, is this like what the Packers games look like? She's like, I mean, yeah, but you guys are like a lot bigger and faster. Yeah. And I was like, is it like this serious? I was like, this looks so serious down there. Like, I'm so nervous for these dudes. Like, I was so like, it was just weird. It's almost like I was glad to hear you say that, because I'm watching. I was like, it didn't even come across my mind that I played there for 4 years, because I was thinking, if I knew like how serious and the repercussions that come from this game, I'm glad I didn't know that in college, because I would have just been freaked out. I think it was like, I don't know, and I knew some of the players, not a bunch of them anymore, but it just seemed like such a big deal being there as a fan. It seemed like, wow, this is just something I can't even wrap my head around. So you're one of the first guys I've heard that had like almost like a similar type story. But my wife's saying, yeah, she still doesn't understand me. She's like, what are you talking about? You're going on your 9th year. You play football. I was like, I know, but it just doesn't. When you're on the field, it doesn't feel like it looks in the stands. I think, I don't know. It just looks. Yeah, it looks way more serious. And like when you're on the field, you're in the heart of it, and you're still messing around with your buddies, and you see guys on the other teams that you've played with and before, and it's just a different world, man. It is a special thing to be a part of. So I definitely try not to take anything for granted. That's for sure.
Yeah, don't, man. And you know what? You're in the middle of your career. Say you're hitting your prime, man. Enjoy every single minute of it, because you'll know when it's time, or you'll hopefully be able to leave it in a graceful way. But man, enjoy it now, because it goes by so lightning quick. And those were great times in my life, and I'm sure you're in the middle of having some great times. And it just goes by fast. But you have a job to do when you're on the field, so you're focused, and you're not really like. For me, when I played all those years in college and the pros, I kind of regret not soaking it in a little more and like actually enjoying it, because it was such a stressful moment, especially in the NFL, and then getting to Denver, like the stress of the situation and the pressure to win and to perform.
Well, and you're the quarterback. Quarterback's a whole different world. That's a different planet, man. You guys, you can't even describe that. But Brett
Favre played in a way that he was having so much fun, and you could see the smile on his face. But I don't feel like I played it. I played as hard as I could, but at times I'm like, I don't have a smile on my face, man. I just want to win. After the game, it was all good if we won, but you're so immersed in that moment. And that's a good way to be. But once you're done and you can sit back like me on the other side, I go to 3 or 4 games a year at the Broncos, and I tailgate, and I don't want to go to a suite. They give me a ticket. I walk through the stands, where they zap your ticket. I walk in with the fans. People get shocked to see me, but I feel I did something right, that I can do that and be a football fan and not have to have like security guards and all these people, making you have even more attention focused towards you. I just go to the games. I hang out with my fans. They buy me a beer. I buy them a beer. We rap about stuff. I tell them to chill out. It's 34-10. Don't yell at the Broncos. They're doing good. Chill out. The game's okay. It's fun. It's a fun experience. And if you can make things in your life fun, especially now football for me, you're doing it right.
What an awesome, I think, to think the fact that you do that, you walk in, like you said, they buy you a beer, you buy them one. I'm sure they're all asking, Jake, what was it like, Jake? What was it like getting hit by a 310-pound monster? So I'm sure you get some awesome questions. I can only imagine.
It depends on what time of the game, man. If it's late third quarter and they've had a few too many, there's some interesting things going down. But I just try to enjoy it, and as you know, and I mean, I was quick and I could do well in a crowd. So if it ever gets too much, there's ever too many people, I can be out quick, man. I'm still the snake when I need to be.
Still the snake, man. You're slithering through those people right to the car.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. When you talk, you sound like I don't know if you write for anybody or like a website or a blog, right? Or I'm sure, I don't know if you a diary, anything, but I mentioned this in emails to you. You wrote a thing for Pat Tillman's memorial about, I don't know if you had a title or whatever, about beauty, just describing beauty. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I have it memorized, but I'll get into in a second how entrenched that, I don't know what you want to call it, poem, word, whatever it was. Those words on the page, man, they run deep through my whole family. But I wanted to just ask you how you came up with that. Did you write it and then read it at his memorial? What did you do? How did that even come about? Because it is unbelievable, man. If anyone hasn't seen it, I don't know. What did you Google it? I guess Jake the Snake Beauty. How did that come about? Because man, that's powerful stuff.
I don't know what you'll get if you Google Jake the Snake Beauty, but
yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to think back to that time because it was tough. A really good friend of mine, a great teammate, just one badass dude. Pat Tillman had been killed over in Afghanistan. So at the moment, it was a real sad time. A real tough time because there was the worst thing that could possibly happen to a guy that we all knew was going to do whatever he wanted to do on his own terms. And for him to not make it back was really sad. But they'd asked me to speak at his memorial that they were having. And so, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? And this guy, without, I would talk differently around old teammates and friends because we all knew Pat a lot differently than the rest of the world knows him as the war hero and the guy who gave up millions. And he was a legend before he ever did that in all of our eyes. He was just a really true, a real genuine, he was a champion, man. He was just in all ways just a badass. And so when I was asked to speak, I started thinking about it, and I came across People magazine, the 50 most beautiful people, and it had this thing in there, and all these, I don't know any of these people on there, and half of them, are they even real? Most of them are fake. They've had so many surgeries and all these photoshops and all this stuff, and are they really beautiful people? And then there was a little part in there about Pat, and it wasn't that he was one of the beautiful people. It was just a little excerpt about Pat and what he did. And it struck me kind of as really odd that there's this People magazine, 50 most beautiful people. And when I thought about it, I thought, Pat was beautiful, man, in all ways, man. He was just a beautiful soul, a beautiful person, and all the way he treated people, the way he looked you in the eyes and talked to you, the way he engaged you, whether you were a starting quarterback or the janitor in the facility. He was just beautiful in all ways. And, most people would think, wow, you're saying a guy is beautiful and what's wrong with you? Are you a little different? Like, hey, man, beautiful is a word that you should use a lot, I think. And Pat really was. He had a lot of traits that I try to emulate myself. And when it comes to talking about him, it really comes easily because all the time I was ever around that cat, he was just so honest, so true, and he was himself. And, you know, I encourage people all the time to, you know, if you want to honor Pat, then do that. Be yourself. And don't be afraid to stand up for something or speak your mind about something. So, you know, I'm honored that you that affected you as much as it has. You know, it was just something I wrote about a really good friend, a great teammate, and a guy that I still miss to this day. So, you know, that you're still using it and throwing it out there, man, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And, you know, it was just coming from my heart, which, you know, if I ever have to talk about something or anything like that, it usually comes from the heart.
It's amazing. I was aware of it years ago, and then a year and a half ago, my brother got married, and I was his best man, and he had me read it at his wedding. I don't think you know this. You've multiple weddings it's been a part of, Jake. That's why I knew I had to warn you at least over email. I had to just make sure you really wrote it, because I was like, man, this dude is gonna break my heart if he didn't do it. If this is fake, I'm done, man.
That's all from here. That's all me taking it down. I still have it tucked away somewhere on the pieces of paper that I wrote it on, man.
Well, it's amazing. And so my brother had me read it as like a reading at his wedding, and it was ridiculous. It was just so powerful.
That's cool.
Anyone was at that wedding that sees this will know. Before I got the first word out, you know, with my brother, I have two older brothers. I went up to the podium. I knew I was going to struggle. I got a few kids, and I get emotional, man. And I say it's so weird. I had kids. I got scared of heights, and I got really emotional. So I don't know if those are related. But I got to the podium, and I'm not joking. Before I got the first word out, just boom, I was bawling in front of 200 people in this wedding. And my dad was officiating the wedding. So my dad's bawling, my brother's crying, my daughter's in the back being held by my mother-in-law saying, Dad, why is Dad sad? Why is Dad sad? And it took me like a minute to recover, and then I powered through it, you know, and it made it actually more like powerful because I had to read like one line and I couldn't get through it, you know. I had to just compose myself, so it really drew it out, and everyone thought, a lot of people hadn't heard it. They thought it was amazing. So I got through it. I'm like, geez, a lot of different things coming together because I was a monster. I mean, I can go back. I grew my hair out long back in the day, shortly after Pat died, to honor Pat, and just my buddies, maybe my two other buddies at Ohio State that we played together as linebackers. Just it ran so deep how it goes, and then I officiated a wedding this past spring for my buddy here in Green Bay, one of the trainers. I went online, got ordained or whatever, did the wedding in Missouri, and he had that he had your beauty writing as a reading at that wedding too, man. I didn't cry for that one since I wasn't reading it though.
That's cool,
but
man.
It's so weird and now I'm talking to you. So will you tell me, man, what a weird world we live in, and also to creep you out even more. I read weird things to my kids at night when they go to bed. You know, I read them their little bedtime stories, but I'll read quotes from Bruce Lee, from different people that I think are cool, powerful people. And my daughter, I said, "What do you want to read tonight?" And we'll go through different things. She'll say, "Beauty, I want to read beauty." And so I realized about 4 or 5 months ago, as I'm reading it to her off my phone, she is mouthing the words and saying it with me. So she's memorized a lot of it, man.
Wow. I mean, that's something I'm honored, dude. I never thought something I'd come up with would have that effect, but I'm glad that you found that and have used it, man. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I debated with my wife and my brother, one of my brothers too. I'm like, man, if I tell him like how deep the roots of his writing goes, he's gonna get creeped out, man. It's gonna get weird for him. So they're like, you gotta tell him. What do you mean? You're not gonna get a chance to talk. You gotta tell him. So
that's cool, man. That makes it worthwhile that it's not just words about a one badass dude. It's actually like carrying on, man, and going forth. That's cool.
It will. I promise you, it will carry on with both of my kids and any future ones I have. And when my 3-year-old already has memorized pretty much the whole thing, just off of, it's not like I told her to, just from me reading it to her. Yeah, you did some special stuff there. But I've kept you a little bit long. I'm gonna start to wrap it up. But Can you? I know you've told a million stories about Pat Tillman, and I'm such a Pat Tillman little fanboy, and Jake. I feel like you guys are both. How do you feel like when he came? So you were already at ASU, right? When he came up, was he a year younger than you?
Yeah, he came in. I was going into my sophomore year when he signed as a freshman.
Did you feel like was there something about him like, man, this dude, who is this guy?
It's hard to explain. I mean, I try to think back to those times, and now in his whole, the legend of Pat and what he's become. At the time, and you're going through all that, you're not thinking prior to him dying or getting killed. You weren't thinking about, wow, that time when he was a freshman, But then I started thinking back, and I remember him as just, kind of a kindred spirit to myself. An undersized guy, came out of high school, really was not fast enough, wasn't big enough, wasn't prototypical, linebacker in the Pac-10 at the time. And myself was the same way. I wasn't big enough, I wasn't fast enough, didn't have a strong enough arm, all this stuff. So I had a real we were kindred spirits. We could kind of associate in that way that we weren't expected to be there. Really, wow, are these guys supposed to be here? And we went out at it and we got after it every day. I mean, he was like me in practice. You better be ready, because Pat would come up and put the wood on you even in practice. And people hated it at first, but then after a while, it just raised the whole level of everybody. I mean, it just became, the expectation was, hey, you're at practice. Why aren't you going 100%? I mean, this is a joke. If you were going to be out here, why would you go through at half speed? So he was just a lot like me in that way. I mean, he had two younger brothers. I had two older brothers. You have two older brothers. So you can understand, that spirit there that brothers have. And so we got along really well, man. And I mean, as a guy, have a buddy on the defensive side. Pat was just a ferocious competitor, a lot like myself. And, when he went on the field, you could just feel it pouring out of his skin and his body and everything, man. He put it out there, and he's become a legend. I appreciate history a lot more now, because we're talking about a guy that's going to be, talked about for a long, long time. We'll be told stories about to kids in school. Kids are being named after Pat. I have a best friend that actually got ordained and was one of my best friends who did my wedding up here in Coeur d'Alene, who named one of his sons Tillman. So, it's really, it's neat. It's great. But it still kind of makes me mad, because I miss the guy. I miss him a lot, and I wish he was still here, just because, I say I'm trying to be like Pat and live in his likeness and do some things. But he was such a motivator too, I mean, he just made you kind of check yourself. He's kind of one of those guys that you kind of wanted to be like, or you were kind of, it's not like they say man crush in a way, but like you just looked at this dude. He just was a badass, man. And every way that he approached life, I mean, he was just, it was fun to be around him, and to not be around him now is tough, but his legend and his legacy's carrying on. His brothers are a couple studs too. They're fun to talk to and be around. And his wife is just an amazing woman. So, Pat's legacy lives on, but the times we spent at ASU and with the Cardinals, it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun just to, run into him running off the field after a big third or fourth down stop, and man, get out of the way, because his fists were flying and he was jumping and screaming and yelling stuff that I can't repeat in most places. But he was an intense, fun guy to be around, man.
I think that's a big reason you guys were a lot of fun to watch, because you had one. It didn't matter which side you looked. You'd see this crazy long-haired dude killing people on the defensive side of the ball, and then when they're on offense, they got you running around, diving head first, trying to get first downs and touchdowns. I know what Musburger's famous thing I still remember. You can cut the head off a snake and it doesn't die, or whatever, when you scored in that Rose Bowl game. But I think if you cut the head off a snake, it does die, doesn't it?
Eventually, yes.
Okay. Well, it's still a beautiful call by Musburger on your gutsy performance you had that game, man. But I could sit here all night asking you questions about Pat, in your life and how you guys kind of intersect in how what you do, man. But I'm gonna let you roll. Get back to your 2 young kids and that awesome view you got behind you. That's a special spot. That's awesome. You've been going there for.
Rotate there a little bit so the fans can see Coeur d'Alene Lake. There you
have
go.
A jet ski back there?
It's just a little boat, man. It's our boat we got in the water. It's a little Sea-Doo boat, man. Get out there occasionally. The water's still a little cold, but the fish bite all the time, and stays light up here till about 9. Better be careful. You have a lot of people might be moving up here soon if they see all that. You'll have nice place.
You have some new neighbors that'll be like me. Yeah. So what was it like, Jake? And then you sit there on your back porch and you think it's cool until they're on beer 6 asking you.
It's classic because just next door is a 14,000 square foot lake house.
Oh, God.
And I'll sit out on my dock and just be hanging out, and boats will come by and they'll be like, "Yeah, that's where Jake Plummer lives." And then their boat comes right by my dock,
and you.
And they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And they drive right by me, and I'm in my little cabin here, just tucked into the trees. It's nice though, man. I feel lucky that the NFL was good to me to afford me the luxury of being able to live here in the summer and spend time on this lake. And I encourage you to find that spot, man. Find your spot that makes you happy, and then go there.
I like it. I think your kids will greatly appreciate that as well. Spending summers up there, I'm sure that's something they'll remember forever. I know that's got to be cool being a part of that. But so once again, Jake, thank you very much, man. Really, really appreciate it. One of my heroes, idols forever, still are. Yeah. You kind of. So weird. I'm talking to you, honestly. I know I've said that before, but yeah.
Let's do it again, man. Let's do it again sometime.
Let me know. I'll come on. The old Snakes Takes, the podcast you got going now. You're rolling, man. Anytime you want, I'll come on. But yeah, you need to. I've said to some other people that have come on here, I want to get them back on. But I think we should have like a recurring thing where you come on, you just check in wherever spot you're at, and we'll come on and we'll have some new things to talk to. And once this thing even gets rolling even more, who knows what I'm going to do. So,
well, good luck, man, and stay original and stay yourself. That's all my advice that's coming from other people to me that I'll pass to you, man. Just have fun with it.
Will do. I will try. I think we all strive. Awesome. I think you guys you got it figured out. I've seen some pictures back in the day when you were playing with your sweet blue blocker shades on and big beard, mustache. I think I saw one time. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm rambling, but yeah, I remember my brother. I think he told me one time. Do you see Jake Plummer's picture, man? It was sweet. I don't know if it couldn't have been your Broncos headshot. But you had like a sweet mustache and like big blue blockers. It was my
Broncos headshot. It was.
How'd you get away with having? Did you have shades on?
No. It was I did a little interview one time with some blue blockers, but. I just try to. It's what it's like day in and day out. It's a stressful. They put so much emphasis on a game that you got to keep it light. You got to have fun. There's a lot of stories that I'll tell you when we're sitting at a bar, not on a podcast, and fun stuff. And yeah, man, you just have fun because it's such a short-lived time. Those guys you're playing with, those are your brothers, man, and make it fun.
Will do. That's a great message, and you're one of the few that lived it and continues to live it, and you went out on your own terms. So a huge respect for that. Turning down money, giving back money. Unfortunately, that's one of the ugly sides of the game. But man, what an inspirational story you have, and is just beginning. So, Jake, appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back on here someday in the near future.
All right. Hey, thanks, AJ. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for joining in. Please visit thehawkcast.com where you can discover the next guest, get a little more information about why this exists, watch past episodes, or link over to iTunes. And tell some friends too, so we can all hear more great stories together.